Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. And I bear witness, there is no God except the one God. Our topic today is a very important one: marriage in Islam. God has prescribed for us laws to govern the important aspects of our lives, and He left a lot of freedom for many other aspects in our lives. And we're told that these laws are recommendations or commandments. They are commandments because we should do them. And they are recommendations because we have the freedom not to do them, as long as we're ready to pay the price. God tells us in Surah 10, verse 62, that if you follow these commandments, you are guaranteed happiness, perfect happiness in this world. And tells us in Surah 21, verse 142, that if you disregard these commandments, you are guaranteed a miserable life. So it is very important for us to know these laws with regard to every aspect of our lives. And today I'm going to share with you the commandments dealing with marriage. There are two requirements that must be fulfilled for two people to get married. And these are: number one is love. And we see this in Surah 4, verse 24. The Arabic is فَمَا اسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْهُنْ. The ones that you like, you get married to. So love must exist between the two. And this cannot happen without good acquaintance with the person. You must know the person. You must know his or her habits. And you must know his or her temper. You must know his or her principles. You must know the person. You cannot love a person without knowing that person. So this calls for a period of acquaintance, getting to know each other. And then based on that knowledge, you will either love the person or not. And God tells you, if you love the person, then you get married. God says that if this is the person intended for you, God will put love in your hearts. And this is in Surah 30, verse 21. So the first requirement before ever becoming intimate is love. You must know each other very well, and you must be in love with each other. And God will help you along if this is the right person. If you don't love the person, that is not the right person for you. The second requirement is dowry for the wife. And we understand throughout the Quran, we understand from the Quran that the purpose of the dowry is security for the woman. Because in many cases, you are taking a girl from her parents' house, then she becomes dependent on the husband. This is the majority of wives in the whole world. And you can't just throw her out after a year or two, because she's not the same person. And after what the Quran calls a formidable oath has been made between the two of you. So the purpose of the dowry is security. And this can be attained by writing a contract and paying the dowry in advance, or saying that if divorce takes place or if the marriage breaks up, then the wife must be given a certain amount of money that will provide her security. The Quran is very careful in this respect. Even where divorce, in Surah 2, verse 240 and 241, we see that divorces must be given alimony or some kind of security. In Surah 65, the first verse says very carefully that you can't kick the wife out of your house. And this provides security for the wife. This is the divorced wife. And you cannot even fabricate conditions and situations to make them so miserable that they live on their own. You must guarantee their housing and staying with their children, and she will not be the man's wife. He cannot touch her, but she has to stay in that house. She must be provided with security of housing, provisions, and this is throughout the Quran. So this is the purpose of the dowry. These are the two conditions. There must be a sufficient period of time for the two people to know each other and to satisfy the first requirement of love before becoming intimate. What is being done now, what my parents did, and what is happening in most Muslim countries is they actually do the official marriage. And then the now husband and wife, they don't touch each other. They do not become intimate. But this marriage, official marriage, gives them a chance to be together alone, hold hands, go places, know each other. And then after months or a year or years, the marriage is consummated. And of course, during this period, if it doesn't work out, they break up. They find somebody else. And she is still a virgin. And she still hasn't lost her chances. This is how my parents got married. This is how my sister got married. How long were you? You did the marriage first, and then how long was it before consummating the marriage?
We didn't.
You didn't. You didn't the American way. Yeah?
2 years.
Okay, there were 2 years between Katb al-Kitab, which is the...
No. Just...
there was an engagement. And then 2 years. And then you did the official marriage and the consummation at the same time. So you had 2 years of knowing each other. If I was in Egypt, you wouldn't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
You didn't go outside.
Oh, you didn't go outside, huh? You had a chaperone over there. Okay. I'm satisfied now. But this is really the way it is done with most marriages in the Muslim world. Worship in Islam and all practice in Islam and all the commandments that God gave us are based on self-discipline and self-control. I mean, Ramadan is coming up where you're going to tell your body you're not going to eat or drink until sunset. This is it takes self-discipline and self-control. Where self-discipline and self-control is lost, the human being becomes worse than animals. And there's a specific reference in the Quran for this. In Surah 7, verse 179, God calls some people, they are like animals, even worse. I mean, what is happening now in this country and in Europe is that people meet, they don't even know each other, let's hop in bed. This is worse than animals. Because you can take a female cat or a female dog or a female horse that is not in heat, not in that proper period, and put her in the midst of 200 best-looking, horny males. Can they touch her? They will not touch her. They cannot touch her because it is not the proper time. But with human beings, the way it is done now here, it's a lot worse than animals. They're worse than animals. And these are the laws that God lays down for our happiness. Because, especially for the woman, I mean, she cheapens herself when she acts this way. For the man too. So, the two requirements, I'm repeating again, are that long period of time where people must know each other and must fall in love before becoming intimate. So remember, love before intimacy. And the dowry, that is to provide security for the wife. Now, the Quran leaves room for forfeiting the dowry if the wife is independently wealthy. And being married or unmarried or divorced or widowed or whatever will not affect her security. Then she can forfeit the dowry. But we have examples of a man who is holding a fantastic position and is wealthy and his ex-wife is on welfare. And that's not fair. This is what the Quran, this is what God's law are supposed to avoid, a situation like that. So it is to the best, for the benefit of the girl to demand her right when the situation calls for it. Tubu ilallah. Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. And we bear witness that there is no God except the one God. The marriage principles are laid down in the Quran must be known to all of us because we come across these once in a while. And these are the principles God prescribed for us to guarantee perfect happiness. And from my experience, from life experiences and the things I have seen, even if it may look difficult at the beginning, it is for the best of the couple to follow these prescriptions. Quite often you read in the newspapers that if I don't acquiesce to him, he's going to leave me and find somebody else. Well, let him. He doesn't love you anymore. I mean, he doesn't love you. That love is not there. But if the man loves the woman, respects her, then she will guarantee a husband who loves her. If you follow these steps, you'll be guaranteed happiness from the physical and spiritual aspect. Self-discipline and self-control is easy when the soul is grown and developed and is stronger than the body, which is what the practices of religion are all about. Developing your soul so it will be stronger than your body. What you hear about Jimmy Swaggart and Jim Baker shows that there are people whose body is stronger than their soul. When here they were preaching against adultery and preaching the word of God supposedly, and then they're dealing with prostitutes. And for the Muslim, it's the Quran provides the solutions to all these problems that we find in this country: alcohol, drugs, marital problems. Solutions to all the problems are found in the Quran. We are becoming increasingly aware of the problems of alcohol and the disasters that come from it. I mean, wherever you look, there are victims of alcoholism. But and please forgive me if I appear to be bragging or anything, but I have to share with you what the Quran does, what Islam does to us. It's that alcohol is just not in my mind at all. It's out of the question. And this is the most effective way of dealing with alcohol or drugs. There's just no way I will be tempted or even think about trying whiskey or gin or champagne or whatever those things are. It's out of the question. It's just not in my thinking at all. The same with drugs. And there was a demonstration on the TV recently with what's his name that had Muslims on the TV talk about drugs? Geraldo Rivera. They had a bunch of Muslims and they were talking about drugs, and they set the example for whether from Harlem or something, where drugs are going rampant, and there's just drugs are not in their mind. nothing is going to tempt them to use drugs. It's the solution to all problems. And there is a mechanism for it, and the mechanism is that the soul is stronger than the body. Because of all the prayer and the fasting and the things that God has prescribed for us and constitute gifts from God to us. And again, I will ask you to forgive me if I appear to be bragging, but again, I want to share with you what Islam does. Now, in my line of work, working with the United Nations, traveling to different countries in the world, and making a lot of money, the UN pays the highest salaries in the world. When I'm with them on assignment. And I have been to conferences, the American Chemical Society conferences, the American Association for Advancement of Science, and in those conferences, it seems like the prostitutes of the whole town converge on the hotels where these conferences are. And I have looked around, and I see scientists that I respect going up or down in the elevator with prostitutes. And I lose respect for them. And what appears to be bragging is that I can make a statement here in a khutbah in front of you, in a prayer, that I never fed for prostitutes or dealt with a prostitute. Because it is not in my mind. And Jimmy Swaggart cannot make that statement, or Jim Baker cannot make that statement. Because they are using the wrong techniques. Because of their idolization of Jesus, they nullify their work. If they do anything that may cause growth or development of their soul, it is nullified, as the Quran says, because of their idolatry. Therefore, their body is stronger than their souls. But like with alcohols and drugs, it's just not in my mind. Now, to make that statement absolutely truth, in saying dealt with prostitutes, there was one instance where a friend of mine, a colleague, we went into his room in the hotel in one of the American Chemical Society meetings to get a book or something, and there was a prostitute passing out in the hall, and he called her in his room, and I guess he was bragging or showing off or something, and bargained with her. And I was there witnessing this. This is the extent of my dealing with prostitutes. So Islam and the Quran just solves all these problems and lays down the laws and regulations and not only teaches self-discipline, but it instills it on you and becomes easy. I mean, it's no problem at all. God says that you can speak up of God's blessings on you. And this is the category where we can share with each other these things, because some people may think it is incredible. When you go in those conferences and if you make a statement like this to the people, it's an incredible statement. And I just couldn't think of a man who, under those circumstances, did not fall after the things I have seen. Under those circumstances, did not fall for prostitutes. The temptation is great. But for the Muslim, there is no temptation at all. It is zero. Doesn't mean a thing. Aqim Salah. When you talk about marriage in Islam, you cannot avoid mentioning polygamy. And polygamy is allowed throughout history. It was allowed. In the Bible, it is allowed without limits. In the Quran, it is allowed with many, many conditions and strings attached to it. But all I need to say is that the Prophet Muhammad provided the perfect example as far as polygamy is concerned. Muhammad was married to one wife for 25 years until she died. He had only one wife, and he raised all his children with that one wife. And after she died, he married women who had many children, who had no support and no home. They were widows of his friends who died in battle or died naturally. and they needed the support. They were old women. There were only 2 political marriages to the daughter of Abu Bakr and the daughter of Umar, his best friends, who insisted, please, you have to marry my daughter. Because this is it's a tribal tradition. In tribal societies, for different tribes to marry and be connected in marriage is important. And this is probably why, after the Prophet's death, Abu Bakr was elected to be the Khalifa after the Prophet. And Umar followed Abu Bakr. And these are the 2 men whose daughters were married to the Prophet. But the message, the loud message here is that Muhammad spent his life, all his young life, with 1 wife and raised his children. And then after that, polygamy came into the picture, and there were many special conditions surrounding that. The other subject that I need to talk about is divorce. And I just have to tell you outright that God hates divorce throughout the Quran. Because almost invariably, children are victimized. Even the husband and the wife are victims in divorce. And this is why it is imperative that we follow these regulations that God prescribed for us and avoid divorce at any cost. There's a verse in Quran that says, if you want to substitute a wife in place of another wife. No, that's not the verse, but there's a verse that says, if you dislike your present wife, you may dislike something wherein God has put a lot of good. The verse that I was mentioning before is, if you want to substitute one wife in place of another, which again actually emphasizes monogamy. It says, do not take anything from the first wife back. And this also brings in the matter of security for the wife. Because women have been abused throughout history, and God knows that. And God says in Surah 28 verse 5 that He is for the oppressed and for the rights of the weak. And marriage is a tremendous contract, is a formidable contract. This is what the Quran calls it. To take a wife out of her house and take her into your house, supposedly to live forever. There's tremendous responsibilities associated with that. So we pray to God to guide us on His path and to give us the gift of following His